went through is that they founded themselves in 1997 and actually went through a lot of growing pains because there weren't a lot of suppliers, a lot of producers of green products at that time. So they actually had to grow very organically with the industry. So for them, that represented a bit of a challenge, but they did survive through it. They've done very well. They now have 2 locations, one in Tofino, one here in Victoria. And they're still owned by the founder, Gord Johns. So, moving forward, sustainability vision. Much like we've talked about, the triple bottom line, this seems to be very important to a lot of people. And of course, it's all about finding that balance between people, planet, and profit, because all of them are very important. And as well, to eco-everything, it's all about being eco-friendly. But of course, what exactly does eco-friendly mean? Well, for them, essentially that's a very strong emphasis on Canadian products. Now, when they started their business in 1997, they had 80% of their products sourced from within Canada. However, due to market factors as well as industry trends, a lot of these suppliers and producers went overseas. So actually, as of 2003, they went from 80% to 4% of their supplies from within Canada itself. However, once again, with the stigma of purchasing from China and the emphasis now on purchasing locally back here in Canada, coming in and being reinforced, they've actually managed to increase this to 20% again from previous levels. So that shows you how things are evolving with this green wave that's happening. But once again, we are having more Canadian suppliers coming in here. Additionally, one of their requirements with any of the products they have in-house is a minimum of 70% eco-friendly materials in any of their products. So if a product doesn't have at least that much percentage of eco-friendly material, they won't go near it. As well, a lot of the standards, no inhumane practices, right? Sweatshops, child labor, out of the question. As well, whenever they can, they try to get fair trade as well as ISO certifications. Now, because green suppliers and producers often are smaller companies, they're targeting a smaller market. Now that's growing, but it is still smaller than average. So a lot of the time they won't have these certifications. But what that means is that, like any business, it comes down to trust. You have to look into the company that you're doing business with, you have to do your own due diligence and make sure that they're actually going to uphold the commitments that they've made. So there's a little bit about their purchasing. In terms of the waste and environment, they do try to do the most that they can. Whenever they ship things between Tofino and Victoria, they try to use a diesel-powered bus, but that is primarily up to Greyhounds to decide. As well, they use biodegradable customer bags made of recycled paper, as well as recycled paper business cards. For their office supplies, they actually source them locally from Monk's Office, and Monk's Office actually has their own very good environmental policy, so an excellent company to go through. And the shelving in their store is actually made out of hemp particle board. So with the things, the business cards, the bags that are going out of the business with the customer, down to the shelving within their actual business, it's all got a mind to minimizing waste. All right, marketing. Well, like we talked about the Green Collective, they are a part of this banding of green businesses. And by working together, they all help strengthen their position within the community. Working with, as Ben said, cooperation, right? We're not all working against each other. We're all trying to make the planet a better place. So in effect, we're actually all working together. As well, they understand that their customers are very, very aware. With internet these days, we're all very informed. I'm sure we've all seen that trend happen. And so, with informed customers who are looking for a quality product, it's very, very important to be on top of current green practices, current green terminology, as well as industry best practices that you can incorporate into your own business. So that's very important for them, and that's a big focus that keeps eco-everything being very eco-friendly. Finally, HR practices. Now, a big thing about, of course, when you have a customer who wants to be informed, who's looking for a quality product, you have to inform them. How do you do this? Through your staff. And in order to do that, you have to look at your staff as a long-term asset of your business. That means education and training is very critical. As well, you have to make sure that they're properly incentivized, otherwise they're not going to remain within that business. For eco-everything, that meant an above-average pay, as well as they recently instituted a very aggressive commission structure, and that has paid off very well for them. They've seen dramatically increased sales and are doing very well, including a very high retention of their employees. In terms of community involvement, something that they do is they actually pay their staff when they're involved in community projects. If they were here at the VBN, at this event, they're working with the Chamber of Commerce, Tourism Victoria, whatever it is, they're actually paid for that time. And that's very important because it keeps the presence of eco-everything active in the community, and it generates word-of-mouth advertising, which is the most powerful advertising when it comes down to eco-consumers. Because we trust our friends, we trust the recommendations. And when somebody says, hey, this is a good store, we're going to listen. So, and also as a marketing grad, I can tell you word of mouth is the way to go. All right, so that's a little bit about eco-everything. Are we good? Yeah? Okay, let's move on. Redfish, Bluefish. Who's heard of Redfish, Bluefish? Quick show of hands. Wow, awesome. So you all know then it's a seafood restaurant. Dominique, this is probably more pertinent for you and your business. Essentially, so they were founded in 2005. Similarly, they went through some pains. They actually went through a very lengthy approval process that took 2 years before they got their location set up due to problems with the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority. But the founders actually used that time as a way to strengthen their planning and their commitment to the business. And that's worked out very well for them. They also have 2 locations, one in Cook Street and one in Wharf, and this is the Wharf location right there. So, with the owners actually all brought in a different variety of skills to the business to make it a success. Simon Sobolewski, I'm probably mangling that. He actually has 10 years in the restaurant industry. Barbara has extensive experience in design as well as architecture, so she was able to help design this incredible building they have there. Kunal is 24 years of experience as a chef, as well as Steve is a fisherman. So he's very aware of the problems that are faced by overfishing, the depletion of fish stocks, as well as the devastation of our marine habitat. So this all came together to make a very successful business. Now, like we talked about, for a lot of these businesses in the eco field, a big part of it in terms of their sustainability vision is triple bottom line. For redfish, bluefish, it's focused on conservation. That means conservation of our fish stocks, conservation of produce, as well as zero waste. Now we'll talk about conservation in a second. For now, let's talk about zero waste. So waste management, first off, their building is reused. It's actually an old cargo container that they ended up getting, and now this has not only environmental benefits, but economic benefits as well, because they ended up paying about 1/10 of the price of a new one. So that worked out very well for them. And they actually put a green roof onto this cargo container, so that's growing grass and clover right now. I can't tell you exactly what kind, you can ask Simon. But that actually has an added benefit of cooling the kitchen in the summer. So, not only is it a green roof, but it's a very effective one to lower their bills as well. Furthermore, they have an intensive composting and recycling system. So that means, as a consumer, when you're done with your plate and your food, you go over and say, oh, here's the compost. You can toss your food in there. You can also take your recycled wooden cutlery, toss it in as well. Your recycled paper plate, put it right in there also. And finally, maybe you have a bottle as a drink, put it in your recycling. Anything else that you have goes into your waste. But let's say you made a mistake, you slipped up. At the end of the day, the staff will actually go through the waste bin and make sure that no compostable or recyclable materials have been misplaced. So that shows you the dedication that they have. Furthermore, it's very important whenever you're doing something, for instance with your supply chain affects your waste stream. And so when you're getting in these compostable plates, these compostable cutlery, you want to make sure you have a compost bin. Otherwise, if it goes into the waste, it's getting diverted to the landfill, it's not going to biodegrade properly. So it's important to think about the systems in terms of what's coming into your business and what's going out whenever you're doing something like this. Furthermore, they actually reuse their cooking oil to power their biofuel Mercedes-Benz. Pretty cool. And as well, if anybody's familiar with the restaurant industry, it is notorious for waste. So actually, they only produce, utilizing all these methods, only 3 to 4 bags of garbage a week, which is phenomenal. All right, purchasing, Ocean Wise Seafood. Who's heard of Ocean Wise? Hands up. Oh, awesome. Okay then, moving right along. That's produced by the Vancouver Aquarium Conservation Program and uses leading edge resources and reviews in order to figure out which fish stocks are sustainable, which ones aren't. In other words, what's good to eat, what's bad to eat for our environment and our marine habitats. And finally, of course, a commitment to local produce, trying to get as much organic stuff locally whenever it's in season and otherwise. All right, marketing, once again. Now, Redfish, Bluefish, excellent example of word-of-mouth marketing because they don't do any marketing. They don't even try to get their name out there. It's ridiculous. And they've received tons of media attention, even international. So what does this mean? Well, as a pioneer in the green business, or in the green industry, as a pioneer in terms of the culture that they create, the atmosphere they have, they draw that attention to them. And so this is something that a lot of people don't think about in terms of the very tangible benefits of being in the green industry, is you will get sought out by people who are looking for these good stories, right? These great examples. And that's something to keep in mind, is that incredible marketability. And that's what's brought all this incredible media exposure to them. Now, in terms of their HR practices, they have a very young, dynamic atmosphere. They foster this green team. And a big part of this, once again, is retaining these very excellent employees, this excellent staff. So they offer competitive wages. They also do tip splitting. They do equal tip splitting. So that means whether you're a cook, whether you're working the till, whether you're a server, at the end of the day, you all split the same amount of tips, and you're all sharing that equally. So that helps create this very collaborative team atmosphere where everybody is viewed very equally, right? And you're all working together to the same common goal, which is to do the best that you can. And finally, community involvement. Once again, working with word of mouth. Redfish Bluefish actually does not target tourists like a lot of other shops. They focus on locals because locals represent repeat business. So one of the things they did was they actually preemptively, when the business opened, went around to all the local organizations operating within Inner Harbor, as well as people living on the water in boats or houseboats, and offered them a 15% discount on all their products. So immediately, that generated interest from the locals. Immediately, it meant a lot of these people who will come by once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, know already on their radar that redfish, bluefish is going to offer a